All right, we are going to go ahead and get started here. Again, thank you all for jumping on. My name is Chase Jensen. I'm a senior organizer with Dakota Rural Action, which is a statewide grassroots organizing group that has been working on the carbon pipeline issue since late in 2021 when landowners first started getting letters about it. Today, we're here claiming victory, celebrating the no vote on Referred Law 21. That has been confirmed now. And we're going to hear from myself. We'll be starting with Ed Fishback, who's been dubbed the godfather of this pipeline fight in the news, who's a landowner, impacted landowner out in the middle of the state in Spink County. We're also going to hear from Senator-elect Joy Hahn, and then we'll be listening or hearing from the attorney that's been working with the landowners group through the last couple of years with the PUC and the survey lawsuits, the Supreme Court decision, Brian Jordy from Domina Law Group. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Ed Fishback to start us off.
Thank you, Chase. Yeah, as Chase mentioned, I'm a landowner here in northern Spink County, and I've been involved in the pipeline fight here since the very beginning, helped organize the coalition that's been put together all across the state here to present our case. And based on what we saw last night, this has been a grueling fight that we've been going on for 3.5 years. And I will say last night's results were particularly gratifying and humbling. And we're very appreciative of the people of South Dakota to give us the result that they did. I think we won 65 of the 66 counties. We won every county that an ethanol plant exists in. And even though we were outspent about 50-1, I think there's probably going to be about $3 million so far to our little piddly $220,000 effort. But we presented our effort to the people. We did a one-on-one talk with as many landowner panels as we could have all across the state. Met with the people one-on-one, and that seemed to work. And once again, we have overcome the large disadvantage we had in money. And we're very happy that we have prevailed on this, but we know the fight's not over, and we'll go on from here. We take pride in the fact that I think we're 5 for 5 now on victories over Summit Carbon Solutions and the proponents of this pipeline, and hopefully at some point in time that maybe this company will realize that they're not going to prevail here and they will move on. So at this point in time, I will turn it over to Joy, one of our new senators-elect.
Joy, you're still muted.
Good morning, I'm Joy Hahn, and I'm representing District 9, which is Western Sioux Falls, Hartford, Wall Lake area, and just excited for the defeat that we had. I personally, my family has been involved and had the threat of eminent domain used against us multiple times in the last 10 years. And I'm excited to bring forth and help with legislation regarding eminent domain reform. We have seen how our legislature worked the last few years, and after the defeats that we've had, we really have had a grassroots movement across South Dakota with a lot of new conservative legislators, and I am hopeful and think that we will bring forth a lot of good legislation that will protect our private property rights and, just keep our freedoms intact where they should be. And so with that, I'll pass it on to Chase.
Perfect. Our opponents on this, the people supporting the bill, made constant reference to the idea that they were being that we were all just a loud minority, extremists, folks who don't live here or don't have commitment to this place. But we have truly shown in a resounding 60-40 split that's happened that we are the loud majority on this issue. And the fact that only one county was won in the entire state shows the statewide nature of our unified voice. So as we celebrate this victory, we also point to the incredible coalition that has been built across the state geographically, also across lots of other divides that exist all across the political spectrum. Folks have been hand in hand working on this issue. And so we applaud the work of the South Dakota Property Rights and Local Control Alliance and the efforts that they did, holding meetings, getting yard signs. We're proud of the text messaging campaigns, the grassroots efforts, all the things we did to make sure that the truth got out about this bill. And as the loud majority, we celebrate this victory. And as Joy said, we look forward to this next session where we will actually get to some of the root causes that this bill or that this project has raised in our state. And we will not settle for false compromise bills like Referred Law 21 was. Brian, I'll pass to you.
Yes, thanks, Chase, and everyone. A brief history, in the bullying, the intimidation, the eminent domain threats started, and people in South Dakota didn't like that. In 2023, we mobilized a much smaller group than we have now for that legislative session. Very few people listened to us. The majority leaders wouldn't take meetings, wouldn't listen to us, wouldn't pay attention. So we went to the PSC and we beat Navigator and we beat Summit. And they still wouldn't listen to us. And we went back to the legislature in 2024, tried again with a bigger coalition. But the majority leaders and the politicians wouldn't listen to the people. So in the 2024 primaries, many of them were thrown out. Then we went to the Supreme Court and beat Summit on every issue that we put forth there. And now with RL 21, as Ed and everyone have mentioned, being outspent to have the whole state now, not just the affected counties, the whole state tell them, no, it's time for Summit and their sympathizers and their friends and the politicians that they fund to realize you've got to respect local control in South Dakota, respect the ordinances, and eminent domain cannot be used. And if they don't get that through their head, this pipeline will not be built in South Dakota ever. So thanks to everyone. It's been a pleasure working with people, growing our coalition. And this is not just, like Chase said, a vocal minority. The state has spoken. We have a mandate now. They have to work with us. And I'm excited for Joy and others to push through real landowner reform once and for all for the good of all South Dakota. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. We're going to stay on here. I know everybody has many stories sitting on their desks, but we have some time now for any Q&A. So to the reporters in the room, you're welcome to come off mute or also put a question into the chat for any of our speakers. Carlos, go ahead.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for doing this call. You've likely seen this already, but Summit put out a statement today saying that they would apply for a permit in South Dakota on November 19th. And so I was wondering if you all could comment on that and just maybe if you could provide a little more detail about, what, reform might look like and what kind of shape that would take in the next session.
Well, I can certainly provide a first comment on that. And if folks want to comment then on reform in the coming session. The first thing I'd say is I think this will be the 8th consecutive month that Summit has claimed they are going to be applying for a permit. So on the 19th, we will see whether that happens or not. If it does happen, just as we've said, for the entire last half year, we've been fighting RL 21. There isn't a problem with our PUC process. They tried to convince us there was a problem because they didn't like the outcome the last time, but we trust that as county ordinances are respected, as the voice of our local governments is respected, this process is going to unfold. So we feel very confident that we will have more landowners involved in the process and that things will carry on. And if they don't significantly reform their project application, I anticipate they're going to get the same result they did the first time.
And I might just add to that, no surprise they're going to try to reapply. They have to. Their investors are demanding they try again. But to Chase's point, it's going to be very telling if that application is simply a copy and paste from last time. That'll tell us they have learned nothing, that they don't respect the will of the people. They don't respect the vote that just occurred. So the routes better be rerouted around the counties with the ordinances in place. It better be drastically different. And we trust the PUC to hold the line as they did in Navigator and upholding county ordinances and respecting the will of the people, which now has been put a large exclamation point behind the importance to do that.
And I might add too to that, what Brian and Chase have said. If they do reapply, we're back to square one. And the reason the project or the permit was rejected in the beginning, because Summit didn't want to comply with the county ordinances that they had adopted. And right now, by the rejection of RL 21, those ordinances are back in place. And our Public Utilities Commission has already ruled once that those ordinances were fair and reasonable. And I don't see any option for them going back to the PUC because there's nothing new that's changed now that RL 21 has been rejected.
I'll also add that we are waiting for the United States Department of Transportation PHMSA rules to come out, which is the Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration. So I believe that is sitting at on the desk at Joe Biden's cabinet, and I think they're just waiting to see, I think, what's happening, with all this legislation going down. But the other thing is I know legislators are working on eminent domain legislation, and I think we want to kind of model what Minnesota is doing, where they have no eminent domain for carbon pipelines.
Yes, and speaking to that idea of what reform looks like, we have said the whole time that if eminent domain wasn't just a Wild West saloon open door for anybody who wants to come into the state and make a buck, there wouldn't be a problem here. The company would have to treat landowners right. They would have to negotiate fairly. They wouldn't walk into negotiations with the sledgehammer of eminent domain. Rarely in life do we go into a negotiation where the other side already knows we have to agree, right? At the end of the day. And so if we fix eminent domain and make it clear what is truly public use, public benefit in our state, then the other issues will sort themselves out. If they're proposing a clearly unsafe project, people won't sign for it. So they will have to adjust their route. They will have to adjust their zoning process to account for the risks that they're putting onto communities and the impacts to the development of those communities, how they want to self-determine their growth. And so we believe that eminent domain is the core issue here. And there may also be other things in the process that could be cleaned up that we have found through the last 3 years, how this has worked. How did Summit condemn 160 landowners with no process confirming they were a common carrier? And then the Supreme Court rules they're not, right? There are things that have been shown in our system that are faulty. And so we'll be making sure we propose solutions that lock things up for the future.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Hi, this is Rachel Kramer with Iowa Public Radio. I was wondering if more counties can enact setbacks after Summit has applied for another permit.
The answer is yes. I mean, they have the power to do that at any time. They should. And those that aren't looking to protect their communities, you may want to consider voting out those folks.
Thank you.
The key point also I'd add on that is until the company has a permit to build, everything is hypothetical, theoretical. And so they made a big stink previously that ordinances were enacted after they had applied for a permit, but before the hearings had even happened, which is insane. If someone gets to propose a brand new technology in our state, and then we're suddenly handcuffed because they said they had the idea, and we're not able to consider what reasonable, responsible regulation is, That's insane for the development of our state. So we absolutely believe with new tech like this, with new risks and new considerations that need to be made, it takes time to develop reasonable, rational responses that are, regulatory responses. And so we encourage absolutely every county to consider modeling the counties that have already enacted ordinances that have been upheld by our state regulatory commission. Carlos.
Sure. I just wanted to ask if you could talk about how many counties the Summit project is going through, because I know you mentioned, that it was just the one county that voted yes. So I was wondering if you could update me there.
I had 18 in my head, but that may not have the full list now that they have added on the additional plants in this last year.
Yeah, unknown. They haven't published any new route yet.
But certainly nearly 20.
I might add that my county that I live in is Spink County, and in the original route, we were going to get the most miles of that pipeline. And if you were looking for a referendum on how our county feels, that also happened last night because our county commission chairperson was up for re-election, and she was targeted by an employee of the ethanol plant here in our county. And our county commission chairwoman, Suzanne Smith, was re-elected with a 73% victory margin.
And interestingly, I just went to Summit's website, and there is no project footprint for South Dakota. They've removed South Dakota completely from their website.
And to be fair, it wasn't super helpful anyhow. It certainly wasn't accurate. Any other questions for folks? Wonderful. Well, we will be posting the recording of this press conference, and we'll send that back out to our press list. So you're welcome to view there for any quotes or anything you need to go back and look at. Thank you all for being here with us this morning. And our contact information for follow-up is in the press release that you would have gotten a link to. So thank you all.